Confidence is often spoken about as if it were a mysterious gift given to a lucky few. Some people seem to walk through life with a natural ease, standing taller, speaking louder, taking risks that others avoid. To the outside world, they appear untouchable, unshaken, almost immune to failure. But what if confidence is not a gift at all? What if it is something built, something trained, something as real and practical as any physical skill? That is the beginning of understanding the confident mind, the realization that belief is not magic, but a choice you make and a discipline you practice. The first truth to embrace is this: confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance is loud, brittle, defensive. It needs constant validation and collapses when confronted with failure. True confidence is quieter. It is steady, grounded, unshaken even in silence. It doesn't need to announce itself because it is self-sustaining. Arrogance brags, confidence acts. And yet many confuse the two. They think a confident mind is about pretending to be the best, about showing off or intimidating others. In reality, confidence is about mastery of self, the ability to know in your bones that you can handle whatever comes, even if the outcome is uncertain. This kind of confidence is not blind optimism. It does not mean believing everything will always go your way. In fact, the confident mind is not tied to outcomes at all. Outcomes are unpredictable. Wins and losses depend on countless variables you cannot control. Confidence is built on preparation, focus, and belief in your ability to perform regardless of circumstance. When you know you have trained your mind and body, when you know you can adapt and adjust, you stop obsessing over results and instead direct all your energy into execution. And that is where peak performance happens, not in wishing for success, but in acting with clarity. Think of a soldier stepping onto a battlefield, or an athlete stepping into the final moments of a championship game. There is no guarantee of victory. There is no certainty of success. What they do have is preparation. They have trained their bodies, rehearsed their strategies, and disciplined their minds. And in that moment, their confidence comes not from knowing they will win, but from knowing they are ready. They are prepared to give their best effort no matter what happens. That is the confidence that endures.
The confident mind is also deeply connected to the way you speak to yourself. Everyone has an internal voice. Sometimes it whispers doubt. You're not ready. You're not good enough. You're going to fail. Sometimes it repeats old wounds, echoing criticism or rejection from the past. And sometimes, if you train it, it becomes your strongest ally, reminding you of your preparation, your skill, your resilience. This inner dialogue is the foundation of confidence. If you let it spiral into negativity, your actions will follow. If you discipline it to speak with clarity and strength, it becomes a weapon against fear. Every confident mind begins by mastering this conversation within. But confidence does not grow in comfort. It is forged in discomfort, in moments of pressure where you would rather retreat but choose instead to stand firm. Confidence is built every time you walk into uncertainty and prove to yourself that you can survive it. Think of the first time you spoke in front of a group, or the first time you tried something you weren't sure you could do. The fear was real, the doubt was loud, but once you acted, you discovered something deeper: capability. Each act of courage becomes a brick in the wall of your confidence. The more bricks you stack, the stronger it becomes. Confidence also requires resilience in the face of failure. Many people believe confidence means never stumbling, never making mistakes. But the truth is the opposite. Confidence is built through failure, because failure teaches you what to improve, and surviving it teaches you that it cannot destroy you. When you fail and rise again, you gain evidence that you are stronger than setbacks. And the more evidence you gather, the less fear you carry. This is why those who avoid risk remain fragile. They never allow themselves the chance to build true resilience. The confident mind accepts failure as part of growth, not as the end of it. Another key to confidence is presence. The anxious mind lives in the future, imagining every possible mistake. The regretful mind lives in the past, replaying every loss. The confident mind lives here, in the now, fully focused on the task at hand. Presence is not about ignoring the future or denying the past. It is about choosing to direct your full energy into the current moment, because that is the only place where action can occur. When you train yourself to stay present, you silence doubt, because doubt feeds on what-ifs. In the now, there are no what-ifs, there is only action. And so, the first lesson of building a confident mind is this. It is not a mystery, not a gift, not something you either have or don't. It is a discipline. It is built through preparation, reinforced by inner dialogue, tested in failure, and sharpened in the present. The confident mind is a mind that has learned, through repetition, that it can be trusted. It is not the absence of fear, but the presence of trust in yourself. This is the foundation. In the parts to come, we will dig deeper into the mechanics of belief, the strategies of mental rehearsal, the power of self-talk, and the resilience required to perform at your best even when everything is on the line. But it all begins here, with the understanding that confidence is not out of reach. It is something you can train, something you can strengthen, and something you can live by. And once you begin, you will discover that the confident mind is not only about performance, it is about freedom. Freedom from doubt, freedom from hesitation, and freedom to live boldly, knowing that whatever happens, you will endure.
Confidence lives or dies in the space between belief and doubt. These two forces are constantly at war inside the human mind, and whichever side dominates shapes the quality of your performance, your choices, and even the way you see yourself. Belief is fuel. Doubt is poison. Belief gives you permission to act boldly. Doubt traps you in hesitation. Belief opens possibilities. Doubt closes them. And while most people imagine belief and doubt as vague emotions, they are in fact deeply practical forces. They are patterns of thought, trained over time, and they can be rewired with intention. Think of belief not as blind faith, but as evidence you give yourself. When you have practiced thoroughly, when you have pushed through discomfort and survived, when you have proven to yourself that you can endure setbacks, you stack evidence for belief. The more evidence you collect, the stronger belief becomes. Conversely, doubt thrives on inattention. It grows in the shadows, in unchallenged thoughts, in the quiet repetition of negative self-talk. Each time you let doubt speak unchecked, each time you feed it with excuses, you stack evidence for weakness. And so the central task of the confident mind is this: to gather evidence for belief and starve doubt of the fuel it craves. But belief is fragile unless protected. It must be reinforced daily. It is not enough to believe only when things are going well. True confidence is belief that endures under pressure, belief that survives mistakes, belief that persists even when others doubt you. This kind of belief is built by rehearsing it, by practicing it like a muscle. Each morning when you wake, you can feed belief or you can feed doubt. Each setback, each challenge is a chance to either reinforce belief by standing tall or reinforce doubt by collapsing. Over time, the repeated choice becomes your identity. Doubt, on the other hand, is a master of disguise. It rarely appears as an outright refusal. Instead, it whispers questions. What if you're not ready? What if you embarrass yourself? What if you fail? These questions are traps. They are designed not to prepare you, but to paralyze you. The confident mind answers these questions not with denial, but with evidence. I am ready because I trained. If I embarrass myself, I'll learn. If I fail, I'll rise again. By reframing doubt's whispers, you disarm them. Doubt cannot survive direct confrontation when you counter it with truth.
Consider high performers in any field.
The difference between those who succeed and those who falter is rarely talent alone. It is belief. The athlete who believes they belong on the world stage performs with freedom. The one who doubts collapses under the weight of the moment. The entrepreneur who believes their vision has value pushes forward despite rejection. The one who doubts gives up at the first obstacle. Belief is not about ignoring risk. It is about trusting that you can adapt, endure, and continue regardless of risk. Doubt sees the mountain and freezes. Belief sees the same mountain and starts climbing. But what about the moments when doubt is overwhelming? Everyone has them. Even the strongest minds experience fear, hesitation, second-guessing. The difference lies in response. The untrained mind listens to doubt, treats it as truth, and surrenders. The trained mind treats doubt as noise, observes it, and chooses not to obey. Confidence is not the absence of doubt. It is the refusal to submit to it. You cannot always stop the whispers, but you can always decide whether to let them drive your actions. This is why rituals matter. Rituals give belief a structure. A soldier checks equipment before battle, not only for practical readiness, but to reinforce belief in preparation. A performer warms up before stepping on stage, not just to loosen muscles, but to remind themselves they are ready. These rituals signal to the mind, I have prepared, I am ready, I believe. The mind anchors itself in these repetitions, and belief grows stronger than doubt. At the deepest level, belief is not only about what you think of yourself, it is also about what you choose to align with. Do you believe in growth? Do you believe in resilience? Do you believe that no setback can define your life? If so, every obstacle becomes proof of your philosophy. Doubt cannot uproot someone who is anchored in principles larger than themselves. This is why the most resilient people often endure suffering with grace. They believe in something beyond immediate comfort, whether it is discipline, integrity, service, or purpose. And so, the battle between belief and doubt is not one you fight once. It is fought daily, in the quiet of your thoughts, in the way you speak to yourself, in the evidence you choose to notice. The confident mind learns to tip the balance toward belief every day until belief becomes the default. When that happens, doubt no longer dictates your actions. It may whisper, but it no longer controls. Belief takes the driver's seat, and your life reflects that shift.
Every human being carries a voice within them, a constant stream of thoughts that narrates, judges, warns, encourages, or criticizes. This voice is the most powerful influence on confidence because it is always with you. No coach, no mentor, no critic has as much impact on your performance as the words you repeat to yourself. Yet most people let this inner voice run wild, echoing doubts, exaggerating fears, and dragging them into hesitation. The confident mind is not built by silencing the inner voice, but by training it. Just as you train your body for strength, you must train your thoughts for clarity, resilience, and belief. Your inner voice is a mirror. It reflects how you interpret the world and how you interpret yourself. Left untrained, it magnifies insecurities. You miss a shot, and it says, you always choke in big moments. You stumble in a conversation, and it says, you're awkward, people don't respect you. This spiral builds doubt and erodes confidence. But the trained mind replaces these judgments with constructive commands. You miss a shot, and it says, adjust, reset, focus. You stumble in conversation, and it says, breathe, stay present, continue. This shift may sound subtle, but it is the difference between a downward spiral and a recovery. Self-talk has a direct physiological effect. Neuroscience shows that the brain responds to inner speech as if it were external instruction. When you tell yourself, calm, steady, ready, your body adjusts, breath slows, muscles loosen, focus sharpens. When you tell yourself you're failing, you can't do this, your body tenses, your heart races, and panic sets in.
Words trigger chemistry. Chemistry triggers performance. This is why the confident mind invests daily in positive, precise self-talk. It is not about empty affirmations, it is about commands that direct performance. For example, in the middle of a high-pressure task, vague encouragement like, "I can do this," may not be enough. The inner voice must be tactical. Focus on your breathing, lock in on the target, execute the next step. The more specific, the more effective. Elite performers script these lines in advance. Before stepping on stage, an actor tells themselves, first line, slow, strong, eye contact. Before a critical shot, an athlete says, follow through, trust your body. Confidence is built when these scripts become habits, replacing doubt with direction.
But what happens when the inner voice rebels? Everyone experiences moments where self-talk spirals into negativity. You tell yourself you're not ready, not capable, not enough. The key is not to argue endlessly with doubt. That gives it power. The key is to intercept it, reframe it, and redirect it. Instead of saying, "I'm not ready," you say, "I've prepared for this moment." Instead of saying, "I'm going to fail," you say, "I will give my best effort." This reframing is not denial. It is choosing the truth that fuels action over the lie that paralyzes you. Training the inner voice requires repetition. You cannot expect to flip a switch in the middle of chaos if you never practiced in calm. That is why rituals matter. Journaling, visualization, meditation, or even repeating a mantra before starting your day conditions the voice. Over time, you create default settings. Doubt may still arise, but your rehearsed inner language cuts it short. The voice that once dragged you down now lifts you, focuses you, and guides you. The most confident people are not those who never doubt. They are those whose inner voice has been trained to respond immediately with belief, direction, and resilience. Their thoughts are allies, not saboteurs. And that is the lesson here. Your inner voice is not fixed. It is not a permanent critic. It is a tool you can sharpen. Train it, and you transform not only your confidence, but your entire experience of life.
Confidence is never an accident. It does not appear out of nowhere at the decisive moment. It is built long before the challenge arrives, rehearsed quietly in the mind through repetition, visualization, and preparation. This is the essence of mental rehearsal, teaching your brain to experience success before it happens, so that when the moment comes, it feels familiar, natural, and almost inevitable. Most people think practice is only physical repeating drills, lifting weights, logging hours. But the brain does not distinguish sharply between what is vividly imagined and what is physically experienced. Neuroscience shows that rehearsing movements in the mind activates many of the same neural pathways as executing them in reality. Athletes who mentally rehearse shots improve almost as much as those who practice physically. Musicians who visualize playing a piece show similar brain activation to those holding the instrument. This means that mental rehearsal is not fantasy, it is training. The confident mind uses this tool relentlessly. Before stepping onto a stage, you close your eyes and see yourself walking with composure, speaking with clarity, commanding attention. Before a competition, you visualize the exact sequence of movements, the rhythm of your breathing, the sound of the crowd fading as you focus. You don't only picture success, you rehearse every obstacle. You imagine the mistake, the distraction, the pressure, and then rehearse your calm response. This way, when reality brings those challenges, your mind recognizes them. I've been here before. I know what to do. Mental rehearsal also inoculates you against fear. Fear thrives on uncertainty, on the unknown. When you have already rehearsed dozens of scenarios in your mind, uncertainty fades. You are not walking into the dark, you are walking into a script you have already played. Fear still appears, but it has less power because your mind whispers, "I know this path." But mental rehearsal must be vivid to work. Vague daydreams of success do little. You must engage all senses, see the environment, hear the sounds, feel the texture of the moment, the grip of the pen, the weight of the ball, the pulse in your chest. The more detailed the rehearsal, the more real it becomes to your brain. Elite performers train this skill deliberately. They sit in silence, close their eyes, and walk through every detail. Over time, the brain builds a library of successful memories, memories that may not have happened yet physically, but that feel real enough to strengthen belief. Another element is emotional rehearsal. It is not enough to imagine the action, you must imagine the feeling. Picture yourself standing on the starting line, nerves pressing in. Then imagine breathing deeply, steadying your pulse, finding calm. Picture yourself making a mistake, then immediately resetting with composure instead of frustration. These emotional rehearsals teach your body how to regulate itself under pressure. They are as important as the actions themselves. Mental rehearsal is also a way to train consistency. Anyone can perform well in perfect conditions. True confidence is performing well when conditions are messy. So when you rehearse, don't only picture the perfect outcome. Picture the microphone cutting out, the lights being too bright, the opponent playing better than expected. Then imagine yourself staying composed, adjusting, and still delivering. By doing this, you condition your mind to remain steady no matter what reality throws at you. In the end, mental rehearsal is the bridge between belief and execution. It takes the abstract idea of confidence and makes it concrete. You can stand taller in the real moment because you have already stood taller in your mind. You can act calmly under fire because you have already practiced calm under imagined fire. Confidence comes not from hoping you will rise to the occasion, but from knowing you have already walked through it again and again until success feels inevitable.
Pressure is the great revealer. It strips away illusions and shows what lies beneath. When the moment is small, anyone can act composed. When the stakes are low, even the unprepared may appear confident. But when the lights are brightest, when time is short, when all eyes are fixed on you, that is when the mind either collapses or sharpens. And it is in these moments that confidence proves its worth. The confident mind is not about never feeling pressure. It is about performing under it. Pressure hijacks attention. It narrows your focus onto everything that could go wrong, magnifying mistakes, dragging your mind into the future or the past. You think of what failure will mean, of who is watching, of the consequences of a single error. In doing so, you leave the present, and the present is the only place where performance exists. The key to confidence under pressure is the discipline of focus. When everything around you screams for attention, you learn to center yourself on the single next action. One breath, one step, one movement. Athletes train this with drills. Soldiers train it under fire. Leaders train it by making decisions in crisis. Each repetition teaches the mind to cut through the noise and anchor itself on execution. A free throw shooter in the final second of a tied game doesn't focus on the crowd or the scoreboard. They focus on their routine. Bounce the ball, set the stance, breathe, release. A negotiator in a heated argument doesn't fixate on the insults being thrown. They focus on the next clear question, the next pause, the next decision. This narrowing of focus transforms chaos into clarity. Breathing is the first tool. Under stress, your body betrays you. Pulse quickens, muscles tighten, vision narrows. The confident mind counters this with deliberate breath. Inhale slowly, exhale longer, repeat. This calms the nervous system, lowers adrenaline, and restores clarity. Breathing is not a cliché, it is physiology.
A calm body allows a calm mind, and a calm mind makes confident decisions. The second tool is cue words, simple, repeatable commands that guide focus. Words like steady, breathe, execute are anchors. They redirect the mind from spiraling into panic and pull it back into the present. Cue words are most effective when practiced in calm, so that under pressure they surface automatically. They become mantras that remind you, stay here, stay focused, stay ready. The third tool is reframing. Pressure is often framed as danger. I can't mess up. I can't fail. This is too much. But the confident mind reframes it as opportunity. This is my chance. This is where I show my training. This is what I prepared for. Pressure is not an enemy. It is proof that the moment matters. Instead of shrinking from it, you embrace it. You feel the nerves, you breathe into them, and you let them sharpen your senses rather than cloud them. The truth is, pressure will always be there. You cannot eliminate it, but you can control your relationship with it. When you have trained focus, when you have built the habit of anchoring on breath, cues, and presence, pressure becomes a stage rather than a threat. The confident mind knows that nerves are not a sign of weakness, but a sign of importance, and with the right focus, importance becomes fuel. In the end, confidence under pressure is not about being superhuman. It is about being prepared, disciplined, and anchored. It is about knowing that while the world spins wildly, you can always choose where to place your attention. And in that choice lies your power.
Mistakes are inevitable. No matter how disciplined, how prepared, or how skilled you are, you will stumble. You will forget lines, miss shots, lose opportunities, or say the wrong words. The fragile mind treats these mistakes as proof of inadequacy. It collapses under the weight of embarrassment or frustration. The confident mind, however, treats mistakes as part of the process. It does not deny them, but it does not surrender to them either. It acknowledges, adjusts, and continues. That is the essence of recovery. Mistakes hurt because they attach to identity. You tell yourself, I failed, therefore I am a failure. But this link is false. One mistake does not define you. It only defines a single moment. The confident mind separates action from identity. I missed that shot, but I am still capable. I stumbled there, but I remain strong. By separating the two, you keep mistakes small, preventing them from growing into doubt that poisons future performance. The first step in recovering is emotional regulation. When you make a mistake, adrenaline spikes, frustration surges, and your body tenses. If you stay in that state, the mistake repeats itself. You spiral. The solution is to pause, breathe, reset. Athletes use physical cues, wiping hands on shorts, bouncing a ball, resetting stands to mark a mental reset. Performers use mental cues, repeating a calming phrase, making eye contact with the audience, smiling briefly to break the cycle. The confident mind develops rituals of reset, so mistakes become transitions, not traps. The second step is reframing. Mistakes are data. They are signals of what needs adjusting, not verdicts on your worth. The best learners treat mistakes like feedback loops. They ask, what went wrong? What can I change? And then they act. This process transforms mistakes from shame into strategy. Instead of carrying the weight of failure, you carry the lesson of growth. Third, recovery requires speed. The longer you dwell on a mistake, the heavier it becomes. The confident mind moves quickly. One missed note in a song is followed immediately by focus on the next. One botched question in an interview is followed by steady answers. The goal is not perfection, it is continuity. Confidence is built not by never falling, but by getting back up faster every time. Finally, recovery is strengthened by perspective. One mistake feels massive in the moment, but zoom out, and it is a dot on the timeline of your growth. What matters is not avoiding every slip, but building a record of resilience. When you look back, you will not remember each mistake. You will remember that you kept going. That memory becomes evidence for belief, and belief sustains confidence. To recover from mistakes is to prove to yourself again and again that you are unshakable. And each time you do, confidence grows, not weaker, but stronger.
Confidence is not something you summon only when you need it. If you wait until the spotlight is on you to start building it, you're already too late. Confidence is built in the quiet, ordinary moments of daily life, the choices you make when no one is watching, the discipline you show when it would be easier to quit, the way you speak to yourself in moments that seem insignificant. These are the bricks that build the wall of the confident mind. By the time the pressure rises, the wall is already there, solid and unshakable. The truth is, every day is training. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, waking up at the time you said you would, completing the workout you committed to, finishing the task you tried to avoid, you are proving to yourself that you can be trusted. And trust in yourself is the foundation of confidence. If you constantly break your own word, your inner voice knows it. Doubt grows because evidence tells it you are unreliable. But if you keep showing up day after day, belief grows because you have evidence that you are dependable. Daily confidence training doesn't need to be complicated. It begins with small wins. Make your bed in the morning. Finish the assignment you've been delaying. Speak up once in a meeting. These victories may seem trivial, but each is a vote for the identity of a confident person. Each is a signal to your subconscious. I take action. I follow through. I am capable. Over time, the accumulation of these signals becomes powerful. You no longer have to convince yourself you are confident. You have lived it repeatedly, and the evidence is undeniable. Another element is exposure to discomfort. Confidence grows not in safety, but in challenge. That is why disciplined people seek out situations that stretch them. It could be something as simple as taking a cold shower, as practical as speaking to a stranger, or as demanding as pushing harder in training. The point is not the size of the challenge, but the consistency of facing it. Each day you step slightly outside comfort. Each day you remind yourself that fear is not fatal. Over time, the unfamiliar becomes familiar, and confidence expands. Routines are also key. Rituals that prime the mind build automatic confidence. A morning routine that includes physical exercise, reflection, or visualization tells your brain, I am starting the day prepared. A pre-performance routine, breathing, cue words, visualization, tells your body it is time to perform. These routines create a sense of control, and control creates calm. With calm comes clarity, and with clarity comes confidence. Training confidence daily also means guarding your inputs. The mind is shaped by what it consumes. If you fill it with negativity, comparison, and doubt, confidence erodes. If you fill it with learning, growth, and positive models, confidence strengthens. This means choosing carefully what you read, what you watch, and who you spend time with. Every conversation, every piece of media, every environment you enter is training your mind one way or another. Choose those that build rather than break. Ultimately, the confident mind is the result of 1,000 small decisions repeated consistently. It is not a single moment of courage, but a lifestyle of discipline. Each day you train it, even in small ways, you lay another brick. And when the day comes that pressure is high and eyes are on you, you don't need to manufacture confidence. You simply lean on the foundation you've been building all along.
Confidence does not arrive in chaos. It thrives in structure. The human mind craves order, rhythm, and familiarity, and routines provide that framework. When you build routines into your life, you reduce decision fatigue, quiet uncertainty, and create a rhythm that anchors you even when the world grows unpredictable. A confident mind is not one that constantly reinvents itself. It is one that relies on rituals to steady the ship. Routines work because they tell your brain, I am prepared, I am ready, I know what comes next. Think of a pilot running through the pre-flight checklist. It's not optional. It's not because the pilot doubts their ability. It's because repetition builds safety, calm, and readiness. The same principle applies to confidence. When you create rituals for preparation, whether before a performance, a meeting, or a difficult conversation, you give your mind a script that reduces chaos. Instead of wondering what to do, you follow a familiar path. Morning routines are especially powerful. The first actions of your day set the tone for the rest. If you begin with randomness, distraction, or chaos, doubt and stress creep in. But if you begin with rituals that sharpen body and mind, confidence builds early and carries through. This doesn't need to be complicated. A period of movement, a moment of reflection, a breath to center yourself, a review of the day's priorities. These small acts create momentum, reminding you that you are in control of yourself before the day tests you. Pre-performance routines are equally critical. Before stepping on a stage, an actor repeats the same warm-up. Before taking a penalty kick, an athlete bounces the ball the same way, breathes the same rhythm, locks in the same focus. These routines become anchors. They signal to the brain, now it is time to perform. Confidence doesn't need to be summoned from nowhere. It is triggered by ritual. But routines are not just for the big moments. They are equally valuable in recovery. When you make a mistake, a reset ritual, a breath, a physical gesture, a repeated word, breaks the cycle of panic. Instead of spiraling, you move smoothly back into focus. The ritual becomes a bridge, carrying you from mistake to composure without delay. Over time, this habit turns mistakes into pauses rather than catastrophes. The power of routine also lies in reducing uncertainty. The more decisions you must make in a high-pressure moment, the more doubt can creep in. Routines simplify. They automate what matters most, so that your mind is free to focus on execution. This is why soldiers drill endlessly, why athletes practice endlessly, why musicians rehearse endlessly. Repetition creates freedom. In the heat of the moment, they no longer need to think consciously about every detail. The body and mind act together, guided by rehearsed routine. That freedom is the essence of confidence. At its core, routine is not about rigidity. It is not about being trapped in rituals for their own sake. It is about creating structure that supports confidence. A strong routine anchors you in storms, but it also allows flexibility because you know the foundation is solid. When the unexpected comes, you adjust without losing yourself, because the rhythm of routine keeps you steady. This is why confident people often appear calm under pressure. It is not that they feel no nerves, it is that their routines give them stability. They have rehearsed their preparation, their performance, and their recovery. Nothing is left entirely to chance. And because they have walked the same steps so many times, the moment feels less overwhelming. It feels like another repetition of a familiar ritual. Confidence grows not from spontaneity, but from repetition. The confident mind does not rely on hope. It relies on practice, ritual, and routine. Each one builds a rhythm that carries you into the hardest moments with calm certainty. And when you live by these routines, you discover that confidence is not fragile. It is dependable. It is there when you need it most, because you have built it into the very structure of your life.
Confidence is not only challenged from within. The outside world applies its own weight. Critics, expectations, distractions, and the constant noise of opinions. You can be strong in solitude, but the test of a confident mind is whether you remain steady when the crowd roars, when others doubt you,
when their voices grow louder than your own. Many people crumble under external pressure because they mistake it for truth. But confidence requires a different relationship with the outside world, awareness of it, but not dependence on it. Criticism is the first external challenge. Everyone who steps into the arena will face it. Some criticism is fair, pointing out weaknesses that need improvement. Some is baseless, born of envy, misunderstanding, or malice. The fragile mind absorbs all of it, letting every word shape identity. The confident mind filters. It asks, is this useful? Does this help me improve? If yes, accept it with humility and adjust. If no, discard it without hesitation. Not all voices deserve entry into your mind. Confidence comes from being selective, valuing constructive guidance but rejecting noise. Expectations are another form of pressure. Friends, family, teammates, or society often project their hopes onto you. They expect you to succeed, to perform perfectly, to carry weight you never asked for. If you let their expectations dominate, confidence collapses because you are no longer acting for yourself, you are performing for approval. The confident mind shifts focus from expectation to execution. It remembers that you cannot control what others want from you, only how you show up in the present moment. Expectations live in the future, confidence lives in now. Distractions also erode confidence. In today's world, distractions are constant. Notifications, comparisons, endless streams of opinion. Each distraction splits your focus, and fragmented focus weakens performance. A confident mind trains discipline to tune out noise. This may mean silencing the phone, stepping away from social media, or creating environments that limit interference. It is not weakness to protect your focus, it is strength. You cannot be bulletproof if you let every distraction pierce your attention. The most profound external pressure comes when failure is public. To stumble in private is one thing. To stumble in front of others feels unbearable. Yet this is where true confidence reveals itself. The confident mind accepts exposure. It knows that mistakes seen by others do not define identity. What defines you is your ability to recover in front of them. Each time you rise after public failure, you prove to yourself and to them that your strength is real. And in doing so, criticism loses its sting, because you know resilience matters more than perfection. Ultimately, external pressure is inevitable. You cannot escape the voices of others, but you can decide their weight. A confident mind treats them as weather, sometimes noisy, sometimes harsh, sometimes pleasant, but never in control of your core. Your compass must remain internal, guided by values, discipline, and belief. When you anchor yourself this way, external pressure becomes background noise. It may be loud, but it cannot dictate your path.
Pressure creates intensity, but fire creates truth. Anyone can appear confident in rehearsal when the environment is controlled and the consequences are low. True confidence is revealed only when everything is on the line, when the crowd is watching, the clock is ticking, the stakes are high, and failure would carry a heavy cost. These are the moments that separate those who merely act confident from those who are truly unshakable. To perform under fire is not about eliminating nerves. The body will always react, pulse quickening, breath shortening, adrenaline surging. Confidence under fire means using these signals, not fighting them. You accept that your body is alert, alive, ready. Instead of panicking at the rush, you channel it. The nerves become energy. The adrenaline sharpens your senses. You reframe the fire not as danger, but as fuel. Preparation is the foundation. You cannot expect to rise to the occasion without practice. Under fire, your mind falls back on habits built in training. If you have rehearsed sloppily, you will act sloppily. If you have trained with discipline, you will act with discipline. This is why the best performers say pressure does not create skill, it reveals it. The confident mind trusts preparation. When the lights are on, you lean on the hours of unseen practice, the rituals repeated endlessly, the details drilled until automatic. But performing under fire also requires focus. Pressure tempts you to think of outcomes. What if I lose? What if I embarrass myself? What if this is my last chance? These thoughts drag you out of the present, where execution happens. The confident mind narrows focus back to the immediate action, one movement, one decision, one breath. You silence the noise of the future and anchor yourself in the now. And in the now, performance is possible. Another principle is composure in chaos. In moments of intensity, everything around you feels amplified. The noise of the crowd, the weight of expectation, the presence of opponents. But composure is a choice. You remind yourself, this is simply another repetition. I have done this before. I know this rhythm. I trust myself. By treating the extraordinary as ordinary, you strip fire of its intimidation. The environment may be new, but the actions are familiar. Finally, performing under fire is about resilience. Mistakes will happen even in the highest moments. The confident mind does not allow one slip to poison the rest of the performance. You reset instantly. You breathe, you recalibrate, and you move forward. Resilience under fire is what transforms a shaky start into a strong finish. To perform under fire is to stand in the storm and remain steady. It is not pretending the storm doesn't exist. It is knowing you have built yourself strong enough to endure it. This is the ultimate proof of confidence, the ability to execute with clarity, calm, and strength when it matters most.
Setbacks are not interruptions to your journey. They are the journey. Every story of true confidence is written in the ink of failure, rejection, and persistence. Without setbacks, confidence has no weight. It would be empty optimism, fragile and untested. What gives confidence its strength is the memory of all the times you fell, adjusted, and rose again stronger. Consider the story of Michael Jordan, often celebrated as one of the greatest athletes in history. Early in his career, he was cut from his high school basketball team. Many would have treated that as a verdict, you're not good enough. But Jordan treated it as fuel. He trained harder, pushed himself further, and returned with undeniable dominance. His confidence wasn't born from being chosen early. It was forged in rejection, refined in humiliation, and hardened in resilience. Every shot he hit years later carried with it the memory that failure had not ended him. It had shaped him. History is full of similar stories. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before producing a working light bulb. When asked about it, he didn't call them failures. He called them steps, discoveries of ways that did not work, each one bringing him closer to the solution. That perspective is the essence of resilience. Each setback becomes data, a stepping stone instead of a dead end. Even in everyday life, the principle holds. A student fails an exam. They can either internalize it as proof of stupidity, or they can study differently, change strategies, and return stronger. A business owner loses a client. They can either collapse under shame, or they can refine their service, learn from feedback, and build a stronger offering. The difference is not talent, it is resilience. Resilience is also a discipline of memory. The mind loves to exaggerate failure, to make it feel larger than it is. But when you deliberately recall past recoveries, you remind yourself, I have survived worse. I have risen before. I can rise again. Each remembered recovery is a weapon against despair. This is why journaling setbacks and lessons can be so powerful. The written record becomes evidence that you are not defined by collapse, but by your ability to stand again. Perspective is crucial. Setbacks feel massive when viewed up close. Zoom out, and they shrink. What seems like the end today often becomes the turning point tomorrow. Many people who now live with unshakable confidence can look back at a devastating failure and say, "That was the best thing that ever happened to me." Not because it was pleasant, but because it forced growth they would never have chosen. Resilience also requires humility. Confidence does not mean pretending you did everything right. It means owning mistakes, learning, and refusing to repeat them. The fragile ego blames others, hides errors, and stagnates. The resilient mind accepts responsibility, adapts, and evolves. And each evolution adds a layer of confidence because you know you are not trapped by who you were yesterday. The most powerful truth about setbacks is this: they are inevitable. You cannot build a confident life by avoiding them. You can only build it by meeting them with resilience. Each recovery becomes part of your identity, proof that you are not easily broken. Over time, resilience turns into an unshakable belief. No matter what happens, I will find a way forward. That is true confidence, not fragile hope, but tested resilience.
Confidence is not a spark that burns brightly for a single moment and then fades. True confidence is sustained. It is not about flashes of courage, but a steady flame that carries you forward day after day, season after season. Many people experience bursts of confidence after a success, after praise, after a moment of clarity. But sustaining it is the real test. The confident mind does not rely on mood or circumstance. It builds momentum and protects it. Momentum begins with rhythm. Success, even small success, creates energy. Each completed task, each kept promise, each recovered setback adds weight to belief. But momentum only lasts if you continue feeding it. The fragile mind wins once and then relaxes, letting old habits creep back. The confident mind understands that one victory is not enough. Momentum is like rolling a heavy stone. Push it consistently and it becomes easier to move. Stop pushing and it slows, and gravity pulls it back. Sustaining confidence requires consistency in habits. Daily rituals, whether journaling, visualization, physical training, or simple affirmations, keep the mind anchored. These are not glamorous practices, but they are the scaffolding that prevents collapse. Think of a musician. Even after years of mastery, they still rehearse scales. A soldier still drills. A leader still prepares before a meeting. Confidence is maintained not by extraordinary acts, but by ordinary ones repeated faithfully. But sustaining momentum also requires humility. Arrogance often destroys confidence after success. You win once and begin to believe you are untouchable. Then reality hits and the fall feels catastrophic. The confident mind avoids this by staying humble, treating each day as new, each performance as fresh, each challenge as worthy of preparation. Yesterday's success is encouragement, not entitlement. Consider Serena Williams, one of the greatest tennis players in history. Her confidence did not come from one championship. It came from sustaining momentum across decades, through countless matches, through wins and losses, pregnancies and comebacks. Her rituals, her discipline, her resilience kept confidence alive, not just at the peak, but across an entire career. That is sustained confidence. Momentum also requires protecting against doubt creep. Doubt rarely returns in dramatic fashion. It slips back in quietly. You miss one workout, and the mind whispers, maybe you're not as disciplined as you think.
You fail once, and the whisper grows. Maybe that first success was luck. Sustaining momentum means cutting these whispers quickly. You remind yourself of the evidence, the habits, the effort, the resilience you've shown. You do not allow one slip to outweigh years of consistency. Resilience and momentum are tied. Every time you recover from a setback, you prevent momentum from breaking. You learn to view recovery itself as part of the rhythm, not as a reset. This way, setbacks are not interruptions, but beats in the larger song of progress. Confidence grows when you realize that momentum is not about never stumbling, it is about never stopping. Finally, sustaining momentum requires vision. Without a larger purpose, even confidence can fade into complacency. The confident mind ties its momentum to meaning, service, growth, mastery, contribution. This vision keeps the flame burning long after applause has faded. It gives you something to wake for, train for, fight for, even when comfort tempts you to coast. Sustained momentum is the secret behind every life of enduring confidence. It is not about being fearless once, but about choosing resilience daily. It is not about one victory, but about showing up repeatedly, year after year. And when you live this way, confidence stops being fragile. It becomes a way of life, steady, enduring, unshakable.
Confidence does not end with the individual. Once you build it within yourself, it naturally begins to affect those around you. People notice steadiness. They notice calm under fire. They notice when someone does not crumble in the face of adversity. This presence inspires trust, and trust is the foundation of leadership. To lead is not only to command, it is to give others the confidence to act, to endure, and to believe. Leadership without confidence is unstable. A leader riddled with doubt spreads hesitation like wildfire. Teams sense it, followers absorb it, and momentum collapses. But when a leader radiates true confidence, not arrogance, not empty bravado, but grounded belief, people align. They feel safer, stronger, more willing to push forward into uncertainty. This is why confident leadership is less about words and more about presence. It's the quiet steadiness that assures others, we will be okay because I will not falter. Confidence in leadership also means taking responsibility. The fragile leader blames others when setbacks occur. The confident leader owns mistakes, learns, and adjusts. This ownership builds trust because people know their leader will not abandon them in failure. It also builds resilience within the group because the tone of recovery is set at the top. When leaders show they can rise after setbacks, others follow. Another dimension is vision. Confidence allows a leader to see beyond the immediate and hold faith in the long-term path. Followers may waver when the journey is hard, when success is not yet visible. But the leader's confidence in the vision sustains the group. Think of explorers, generals, entrepreneurs, or activists. All of them faced long stretches of doubt and difficulty. Their ability to keep moving, to project belief in a brighter outcome, is what carried others through the dark. But confident leadership is not about pretending to have all the answers. In fact, the most effective leaders admit what they do not know. Their confidence is not fragile. It allows them to seek help, delegate, and trust others' strengths. This humility reinforces trust because people see that the leader's confidence is not ego-driven, but mission-driven. Confidence in leadership also involves emotional steadiness. When crises erupt, emotions run high. A confident leader regulates their own emotions first, then helps others regulate theirs. They listen with patience, speak with clarity, and act with composure. This steadiness is contagious. Panic spreads quickly, but so does calm. In the presence of a confident leader, people find their own courage. Finally, confidence in leadership is about service. True leaders use their strength not to dominate, but to uplift. Their confidence creates space for others to grow, to take risks, to build their own belief. They are anchors for the group, not because they are perfect, but because they are steady. In this way, confidence transcends the self. It becomes a gift to others, a source of stability in a world that often feels uncertain.
For many, confidence is imagined only in the context of performance, stepping onto a stage, competing in a game, giving a speech, leading a team. But if confidence is only useful in those moments, it is incomplete. True confidence does not switch on and off depending on the situation. It becomes a way of living. It infuses every part of your life, from how you carry yourself in daily interactions to how you face challenges that have nothing to do with competition or performance. The first arena where this becomes clear is relationships. People often think confidence in relationships is about charm, persuasion, or control. In truth, it is about presence and authenticity. A confident person does not pretend to be someone they are not to earn approval. They know their worth and show up authentically, which creates trust. They are not afraid of being disliked because their sense of value is not dependent on constant validation. This authenticity is magnetic. People are drawn to those who stand firm in who they are because it gives permission for others to do the same. Confidence beyond performance also means resilience in everyday setbacks. Not every battle is dramatic. Many are quiet. The traffic jam, the difficult coworker, the unexpected bill. These small stresses erode the unprepared mind. The confident mind approaches them differently. Instead of spiraling into frustration, it breathes, resets, and adapts. This daily steadiness is just as important as grand performances because it shapes the quality of your life. Confidence is not only how you handle the spotlight, it is how you handle the grocery store line, the late email, the minor rejection. Another aspect is decision-making. People without confidence often agonize over choices, terrified of making mistakes. The confident mind accepts that mistakes are part of growth, so it chooses decisively. It weighs the options, makes a choice, and commits. If the choice is wrong, it adjusts. This decisiveness creates momentum. In contrast, hesitation breeds stagnation. The confident person moves forward, while the doubter remains stuck. Confidence in everyday life is also about boundaries. Without confidence, people allow themselves to be pulled into commitments they don't want, conversations they don't believe in, or relationships that drain them. The confident mind says no with clarity. It recognizes that saying no to the wrong things is saying yes to the right ones. Boundaries are not walls, they are gates, and the confident person decides what to let in and what to keep out. This makes life more intentional and peaceful. Finally, confidence beyond performance is about service. When you are secure in yourself, you no longer live only for approval or validation. You are free to give, to mentor, to support, to encourage others. True confidence creates space for generosity. The fragile ego hoards attention. The confident mind shares it, and in doing so, it multiplies its impact. Confidence is not meant to be locked away for the big stage. It is meant to transform how you live every day, steady, authentic, decisive,
resilient, and generous. When it does, your life stops being a series of anxious reactions and becomes a deliberate expression of who you are. This is confidence at its highest level, not a mask you wear in moments of pressure, but a way of moving through the world.
Confidence, at its highest level, is not a technique or a momentary state of mind. It is a philosophy, a way of living and seeing the world. The tools, strategies, and rituals you've learned are not meant to vanish after the competition ends, or the meeting is over, or the crisis has passed. They are meant to become part of who you are, woven into the fabric of your life so deeply that you no longer act confident in certain moments. You live confident every day. The philosophy of the confident mind begins with identity. Confidence is not about pretending to be flawless, but about choosing to define yourself by resilience instead of fragility. You are not the sum of your fears. You are not the weight of your failures. You are the one who rises again and again, the one who endures and learns. This identity is unshakable because it does not rely on perfection. It relies on persistence. The second principle is presence. Life constantly tempts you into distraction, replaying the past, fearing the future, comparing yourself to others. But confidence lives only in the present moment, because the present is the only place where action exists. The confident philosophy is to return again and again to the now. When you are here, fully engaged, doubt loses its grip. The third principle is purpose. Confidence without purpose drifts into arrogance or emptiness. But when your belief in yourself is tied to something greater, service, mastery, growth, contribution, it becomes steady. Challenges become meaningful. Sacrifices become worthwhile. Purpose fuels confidence because it answers the question why you continue when others quit. The fourth principle is humility. The most confident people are not the loudest in the room. They are steady, willing to admit mistakes, willing to learn. Their confidence is not fragile, so they do not need to defend their ego. They know strength is not threatened by growth. It is built on it. This humility keeps confidence sustainable. Without it, success curdles into arrogance, and arrogance always collapses. The fifth principle is generosity. True confidence creates space for others. When you know your worth, you no longer compete for scraps of validation. You can uplift, encourage, and empower those around you without fear that their strength diminishes yours. In fact, the confident philosophy knows that leadership and legacy are built by multiplying belief in others. Finally, the philosophy of the confident mind is acceptance. Life is unpredictable. Pain will come. Failure will visit. Loss is inevitable. But confidence says, I will endure. I will adapt. I will rise. This acceptance frees you from fear because you no longer demand a perfect path. You demand only that you keep walking it with courage. And in that courage, you find freedom. To live this philosophy is to be unshakable, not unfeeling, not invincible, but unbreakable in spirit. You walk through life with a quiet steadiness that others notice but cannot always name. You are present, purposeful, humble, generous, and resilient. And because of this, no matter what happens around you, you remain anchored. This is the lifelong philosophy of the confident mind, that confidence is not something you reach once, but something you live every day. It is a way of being that turns setbacks into lessons, pressure into focus, and life itself into a training ground for resilience.
Carry this philosophy with you, and you will discover that true confidence is not about never being shaken. It is about always finding your center again and moving forward, unshaken, into whatever comes next.